Hey, so the last and final demo that we have is from Mr. Eric Chin, the man, the myth, the legend. I know I've said that before, but Eric is just a I don't know. He's like a mythical godlike person around the halls of F5 and here in Dev Central. And so Eric, if I'm kind of flowing through this correctly, we started off with David saying, hey, what are some of the issues that people have? And then Chaz and Jason came in. They said, hey, here's how you can set up your APM with the VPE and all that stuff. And then Peter took it to that next level to say, here's how you optimize all that stuff. And you are going to take it even to the next level and say, here's how you just automate everything. You're the automation god. So Eric Chin, thanks for being here. Take it away, my friend.
All right, so up on the screen is what you can kind of see where this started, where internally we had Jason say, hey, does anybody know how to do automation with AS3 and VPN? And I said, sure, let's go figure it out. So we've heard about how to kind of build it from scratch. We've heard about how we can use an IAP to do some of this automation. But what I'm going to be talking about today is the future of F5 and its automation, which is something that's called the Application Services Extension. And this provides what we call a declarative way to deploy our infrastructure. What does that mean for you? I only have about 5 minutes to talk, and that's all it's going to take for me to do this entire demo, because we're going to deploy an entire AWS VPC network environment. We're going to stand up a big IP device. We're going to license it. And then we're going to connect in and using VPN. And because this is being done cooking show style, I've actually done this already. So it's not actually 5 minutes to do the entire thing, but you get the picture is that what we're trying to do is say that I want to deploy an entire VPN solution and also include a lot of the best practices that we've already talked about. So we're going to be doing things like setting it up so that the client is going to be routable within this network. So if you did have to support kind of clients that were doing voice over IP or SIP, that's going to be working. In this particular demo, I didn't apply a bandwidth controller, but because AS3 also supports doing bandwidth controllers, we can do that. Bill Church, the best comment about doing TCP progressive, that's actually in this demo. So we're all trying to just take all these lessons learned, disabling compression, packaging it up, making a script so that if you need to deploy it rapidly, you're going to be able to do that using our Virtual Edition platform. And I'm talking about Virtual Edition and AWS today, but a lot of the methodology that I'm talking about here is very applicable if you were dealing with hardware devices as well. So now that we kind of understand the context of what we're going to do, what I would have showed you in a demo is we're using something that's called Vault to store SSL certificates. So Jason was earlier talking about how extensible APM, how many different authentication types we can use. In this particular case, we're just focusing on using client certificates for authentication. And why are we doing this? Because it made my demo easier, to be honest. But to make it a little bit more interesting, I said, hey, what if I just use like short-lived certificates? So in this case, HashiCorp has something that's called Vault. So you can generate an SSL certificate, say, hey, I only want this to live for 30 days. If that client tries to come back after 30 days, it's like, nope, you're not getting in. That's the beauty of TLS. So once we've kind of got those certificates in there, I've built out the entire AWS environment. So you're going to see that all the environment's going to be there, everything that you need, all the big IPs have been landed, and we're going to deploy that. So that's going to be a quick run through of what we're doing. So if you have any questions, raise your hand. Just kidding. But let's take a look at those pieces. So the first part is that I've already kind of stood up in this environment, kind of different environments. So what this means is that, think about an entire data center being stood up in AWS. That's kind of what I've done. So I've kind of done the first part, which is kind of fully baked. I've done the demo part, which is kind of partially baked. And then what I'll kind of kick off with is just showing you how I could build up a third part of that, right? So just kind of showing you different parts of the demo environment. So I'm gonna have to jump into console right now. Hopefully the text will be large enough so you can kind of follow along. Everything that I am going to be talking about today is also coming from our good old Dev Central site. That is why we are here. We all love Dev Central. So this all was turned into a Dev Central article because I'm really into video. I also have a fancy video that's right here. So all you YouTube fans, you can kind of go click on this, maybe you guys will put a card right here that'll click over to my video right now. Uh, hopefully I got it on the right side.
Yep.
I'm a coder, so I've got this all in GitHub, so you can kind of see everything that's in there. So I'm just going to be kind of, picking up pretty much at this part of it, and actually I have to refresh the page because I had to like actually commit a change to fix it. Hey, look, I fixed it. That's the beauty of code, is that you can fix it.
That's right.
So what I'm going to do for the first part is we're going to kind of pretend that we were kind of doing this from the very beginning. So where this would start is kind of halfway through. I've installed the tools that I need. And I'm at the point where I say, hey, I need to spin up AWS. I need to spin up big IP. So let's get that process started. I've set some variables that are necessary to get this demo running. So what you can see is that in this particular case, I'm going to build up a whole new environment that's going to have new in the name. So that's a keyword that, well, probably will run out of time, but that's what it's going to be called. So we're going to terraform init. That's a fancy way of just saying, go out, grab all the pieces of software I need, teach me about AWS. So if you're a fan of the Matrix, this is kind of part where they plug in and say, like, now I know Kung Fu. Now it knows about AWS, and it knows about big IP. So that's pretty powerful. You can do it. You can tell it to do a plan, which will kind of tell you, hey, this is everything that I think I'm going to do. But we're going to live dangerously, where we're just going to say, hey, I know what I want to do in this environment. So all I want you to do is just kind of apply it. So what we do is this is kind of a command where we just say, hey, I know what I'm doing. Just kind of go ahead and do it. And what you'll see scrolling through the screen is that this tool knows how to build out an entire AWS environment. I've also given it the information about how to stand up the big IPs, how to do the licensing task. In this case, we're using the pay-as-you-go, so it's kind of all configured to go. So this is all kind of churning in the background. And I'm not quite sure that the AWS side of it is refreshed to see it. Let me just do a quick refresh here. Oh, that is going. So before, we only saw that there were 2 VPCs, so we can actually see already we have a third VPC that's being built, a whole new network that's coming into it. So this is kind of at the point where you would kind of start off that environment, and then kind of go over to the next part of it is, let's say that we are, this is the second part of it is I've stood up the entire AWS environment, but now we need to kind of configure all of the VPNs. So in this part of the demo environment, you could imagine there's a pair of big IPs and they basically have no configuration on it right now. I didn't have the time to bring up that screen, but just kind of visualize there's just an empty big IP. It's completely blank. So at this point, I'm just going to run another Terraform command. And what I'm doing in this step is I'm doing the process of installing the automation tools. So when you take a big IP out of the box, it does everything that you know and love. What this is doing is it's just making it smarter. It's installing this application service extension that gives it this declarative API and makes it possible for us to automate the VPN deployment. The outputs that are here, this is just kind of convenience. For the fans of Big IP and F5, you know that we do have a command line Linux client. Jason was talking about our more traditional mobile Mac, Windows clients, but hey, it runs on Linux and it's great. There's also a GUI-based Linux client that's slightly different if you're into that. But now that we've deployed this out here, we can actually make a connection. So this is kind of the part of the demo where I just kind of prove that everything's working. And I'm going to go into a different directory because, again, this is kind of the cooking show, and I just want to make sure that everything's
This
right.
is where you pull it out of the oven, right, Eric? So, hey,
this is definitely where I pull it out of the oven. Yep. And I'm going to just see, all right. I'm living dangerously because I've honestly forgotten which directory I'm in. So in this case, this is, a private address, and all I'm going to prove right here is I can't connect. It's not there. I don't have a VPN connection. But now what I'm going to do is this kind of fancy command line here is saying, hey, use this client certificate, connect in there. We do a super secret handshake to make sure that everything's secure. And we can now kind of run this command to just say, hey, is everything connected? Is everything all right? What we can see here, take note for the people who are watching closely. We talked about lease pools, IP addresses in Jason's demo. This is the client IP address of this VPN client. And you can kind of see here in the command line, it's a 10116 address is the actual one. So next, let's kind of go back and curl that same command that we did earlier. This is just a little demo app that I have running in the back end. And take note that when I talked about, hey, we're trying to take all the information that we distilled from earlier in this live stream, I've done all of the appropriate routing so that when this client's connecting in, it's being through the tunnel. All the routing is set up within the VPC environment within AWS to send that client connection back. So this is just demonstrating
people out.